but putting yourself in a situation like you did where you talk to somebody and you know you're going to have potentially an episode or you're going to forget something, I think that's the best thing to do, is to put yourself in the deep end and to deal with the frustration, with the challenges, and forget about the embarrassment and all the bullshit that we worry about. Just forget about all of that stuff and just allow the conversation to occur, because that's how conversations occur. They occur by going in and starting, and then if something goes away, just wait for it to come back. If it doesn't come back, start talking about something else.
This is Recovery After Stroke with Bill Gassiamis, helping you go from where you are to where you'd rather be.
Bill from recoveryafterstroke.com. This is episode 85, and my guest today is Marcia Moran. Marcia experienced a stroke while sleeping and had to drag herself out of bed and onto the floor with one hand to raise the alarm. Marcia has written a book about her experience called Stroke Forward: How to Become Your Own Health Care Advocate, one step at a time. Now, just before I get started, I wanted to let you know that you can now download all the words of this episode as a PDF. It's perfect if you prefer to read and take notes or highlight different parts of the interview for future reference. It is a great way to learn and help retain new information to memory. Just go to recoveryafterstroke.com, click on the image of the episode you have just listened to, and at the very beginning of the page, you will see a button that says Download Transcription. Click the button, enter your email address, and the PDF will begin to download. Also, a few weeks ago, I launched Recovery After Stroke Coaching. The people who signed up are now being coached by me and are being helped to overcome challenges, including fatigue, anger, isolation, amongst other things. So if you're a stroke survivor that wants to know how to heal your brain, overcome fatigue, and reduce anxiety, Recovery After Stroke Coaching might be perfect for you. If you have fallen in the cracks between hospital and home care and desire to gain momentum in your recovery but do not know where to start, this is where I can help. I will coach you and help you gain clarity on where you are currently in your recovery journey. I'll help you create a picture of where you'd like to be in your recovery 12 months from now, and I will coach you to overcome what's stopping you from getting to your goal. During coaching, I will also teach you the 10 steps to brain health for stroke survivors and guide you through each step with supporting interviews from experts and information that is based on the latest scientific research. If you take up this offer, you will get a one-on-one private coaching thread with me, access to the course 10 Steps to Brain Health for Stroke Survivors when released, access to member-only monthly group training calls, and access to the Stroke Survivors Private Forum. Be one of the first 10 people who join Recovery After Stroke Coaching now and get the first 7 days free. To get Recovery After Stroke Coaching, click the link below if you are watching on YouTube, or go to recoveryafterstroke.com/coaching if you are listening online. And now it's on with the show. Marcia Moran, welcome to the podcast.
It's nice to meet you, Bill.
Tell me a little bit about what happened to you.
So it was a Sunday morning when I woke up and I felt just weird. So I reached over and grabbed my phone and texted my friend Rochelle because we were scheduled to have breakfast. And no matter how many times I put my message in the phone, it came out garbled. So I just said, I'll text her later. And I put the phone down, rolled over, and I got the most incredible pain in the left side of my head. And despite this annoying pain, I fell asleep. And I don't know how long it was, but when I woke up, I knew I was in real trouble because my right side was completely paralyzed from my toes all the way up through my head. Through my head. But I heard that my husband was downstairs listening to the TV. So I knew that if I got to him, he could take me to the hospital. So I rolled out of the bed and dragged myself with the carpet with my left hand until I got to the door. And unfortunately, the door was closed. So I reached up for the handle, and the problem is the right side didn't work, so I was a little too short. And finally, I guess maybe I got my butt off the floor and I reached the door handle and it snuck open. And I was so thrilled that it was open, but I was also tired. So I had to take a break for a while. And when I finally got enough energy back, I started dragging myself down the hallway. And I thought that the hallway would be easier because it's wood. It wasn't easier. So I got to the top of the stairs and I totally ran out of gas. I mean, it was just, I just laid there.
So did you go to bed feeling normal?
Yeah, it was completely normal. I have no idea what happened that night.
Did you feel any symptoms, any signs, anything the day before? Like looking back, reflecting, how was there any opportunity for you to kind of be aware that maybe something was going wrong?
Absolutely none.
So did you have the presence of mind to think about the situation that you found yourself in when you woke up? You couldn't feel your right side; it wasn't working. Did you feel? Did you think about it at all? Like what happened?
So the only thing I could think of is I have to get to help.
Yeah.
I thought if I laid there in bed, I would probably die.
Hmm.
Um, so nobody even thought of the word stroke until the paramedics came to the house and they walked to the door, saw me, and said, "Oh, stroke." And my husband and I were flabbergasted because we had no idea that. I mean, I was 53. I ran every day. Um, so I didn't have high blood pressure. Well, I didn't have high blood pressure anymore because I started working out every day.
Uh-huh.
Um, I didn't have high cholesterol, so I had no idea that this was coming.
Yeah. So what type of a stroke was it?
It was a carotid artery dissection, and 1 to 2% of people have it. There's no way of knowing when it's coming, and unfortunately, you just are one of those people that have them.
Oh, so what is it exactly?
So the carotid artery has, I think it has 3 layers to it. And so it's when one layer breaks away from the other and there's a false lumen or piece of blood that gets collected in there. And then it creates it either all disintegrates over time or else the false lumen just is,
Levels.
yeah, and it goes up to your head.
Yeah. And
So
the false lumen is pretty much a
it's a
gathering
blood
of
clot.
blood clot,
Yeah.
and it just forms because of the shape of the vessel has changed.
Yeah.
And then as a result, it just gets too big, it releases and it goes up.
Yeah.
And then the other possibility with the dissected carotid artery is that a piece of the artery actually goes up. Sometimes they come away
Right.
depending on where the artery has started to not work. So
Oh,
if it,
interesting.
yeah, so sometimes if it's a piece of the artery that's on the inside of the artery, that if it's the layer on the inside, then that could come away. So the first time that somebody suspected a stroke was when the paramedics arrived, found you
Right.
in the same place. I imagine your husband found you, and then what happened? Do you have any recollection of
So
the process after that?
So I remember that they bundled me into the ambulance and I lost consciousness when we started driving off. And I actually didn't awake until after I was in the hospital. They had hospital gown on me and a needle in my arm. And that's the first time I was even awake. Um, so it was actually not as traumatic as you'd think because my husband was there in the hospital room with me, and when I saw him, I just said, that's okay, and I fell asleep again.
Yeah. Did you end up having surgery? How did they
No.
resolve the issue? Okay, they didn't.
Yeah, they said that the artery was dissected and there would be no blood through it. Um, the interesting thing is when I went in for my scan the next year, there was blood flow through it again. So they misdiagnosed me.
Okay. So they misdiagnosed you thinking that your carotid artery had stopped working?
hmm hmm
Wow.
Yeah.
Is it possible that it stopped working and then started working again?
No, for a while, like when they took my CAT scans, you can see that there's no blood going through there.
Wow.
Um, it's just I guess it reconnected again and started working. Now it's smaller than the other carotid artery,
Right.
um, but it's still working, which is, I think it helps me.
Well, yeah, if you have a blood vessel that works and tends to take blood to your brain, I think it helps you a lot, Marcia.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Tell me about you woke up. What were you dealing with? What was the body like? What did you have to recover from?
So, like I said, my right side was completely paralyzed from the toes all the way up to my head. And I didn't speak well at all. I mean, I spoke a little bit. Sometimes you could understand me. Sometimes I guess I spoke gibberish. Um, so the things that hurt were my shoulder, which hurt the worst, my hip, my hand and wrist, my elbow, my knee, and my foot. In fact, my foot still crunches together every day, all day.
What do you mean by that? Crunches together.
So it's like I have a spasm in my foot. So if anyone knows of anything that will get it over, I would like to know.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, is it just muscles contracting, expanding, and contracting, or
Yeah,
tensing, or
yeah, it's just like that. It's like when you have a cramp.
uh-huh.
hmm
And therefore, is it still painful?
Oh, there's some pain on my right hand side, but most of the time I ignore it now
Yeah.
because there's so many things I want to do. So if I focus on the pain, I think it will be take my focus away
Yeah.
and all the things I want to do, like I wrote a book. Um, I'm talking to people at stroke centers. That will go away. So I'm gonna just ignore the pain and move on.
That's a good approach, I suppose. No different to what most people do is they just either become used to it or they become more able to deal with, to tolerate more pain.
Yeah,
Uh, so ignoring it, that's another way to deal with it. So how many years ago was the stroke?
almost 6 years.
Okay, so you've come quite a way.
Yeah.
And when you woke from surgery, did you need, from your hospital stay, did you need rehabilitation? Did you have a time where you went to recover any parts of your physical body?
If you've had a stroke and are in recovery, you'll know what a scary and confusing time it can be. You're likely to have a lot of questions going through your mind, like, how long will it take to recover? Will I actually recover? What things should I avoid in case I make matters worse? Doctors will explain things, but obviously because you've never had a stroke before, you probably don't know what questions to ask. If this is you, you may be missing out on doing things that could help speed up your recovery. If you're finding yourself in that situation, stop worrying and head to recoveryafterstroke.com, where you can download a guide that will help you. It's called 7 Questions to Ask Your Doctor About Your Stroke. These 7 questions are the ones Bill wished he'd asked when he was recovering from a stroke. They'll not only help you better understand your condition, they'll help you take a more active role in your recovery. Head to the website now, recoveryafterstroke.com and download the guide. It's free.
Yeah. So I was in the hospital for 5 days, and then I went to a rehab hospital, and I was there for 2 weeks. Then I had home health care for 6 weeks, and then I went to another rehab hospital as an outpatient for another 6 to 8 weeks. So, and I found that I was better, but I wasn't quite whole. Like, it takes a long time to get over something like this.
Mm,
So I actually hired my own physical therapist, and we worked on each for a year. She worked for me.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
interesting that word that you said you didn't feel whole. And
Yeah.
I suppose it was a long time for me to feel um, whole.
Hmm.
And I don't know if I do still. And it's been 8 years nearly
Yeah.
since the first time I had a bleed in the brain. And I feel like I've come a really long way. The more time that passes, the better I feel about my body, the better I feel about all the issues that I have. But being whole, it has a different connotation now. It doesn't mean what it meant before because I'm feeling different on both sides
Hmm.
of my body. I don't feel whole again. I feel two different versions of myself, and together they come together. But I don't know if they make a whole me. They make a different version of me.
Right. So how do you get over that?
I'm not sure that I will, or even if I have to, I just, like you, I just accept it as being what it is and I move on. And I
Right.
get my things done and I do my interviews and, I support people and I do everything I have to do. And I notice it more when I am paying attention to it, for example. Like
Right.
now, when we're speaking about it, of course, I'm noticing it. And I'm
Right.
noticing it when I'm standing up in one spot for a long time, which is what I do when I record most of my podcasts, because the leg starts to change and give me feedback that, this is a little bit uncomfortable. And even if
Hmm.
it is uncomfortable, I'm not going to sit down because the other side is not uncomfortable. And the other side, the normal side, or the side that hasn't been affected by the stroke, doesn't feel any different. It doesn't feel tired. Therefore, I don't believe my other side. My other side is just making up stories.
Right. Right.
That's kind of how I reconcile it. And
Hmm.
it's interesting because I went to the gym for the first time 2 weeks ago, and I went on a Saturday morning, and I went for half an hour, and within a minute, my left side was no. Let's go home. Let's get out of here. And my right side, of course, is still going and not feeling any of the pain or the drama or anything like that.
Right.
And it was just a matter of me convincing my left side to just be quiet and stay the course, because
Hmm.
really you might think you're tired, but you're not really tired because the right side is not showing any signs of tiredness. Now
Right.
I say that that's a way of me to communicate to my body to do the mind over matter things. That's kind of how I do that. The reality is that there is a difference going on in my brain. There isn't a part of the brain that's not there. There is a part of the brain that's been interfered with because of the surgery. So therefore, there is definitely something different physiologically happening to me, but it's not an excuse that I'm going to accept from my left side.
Right.
Similar to you,
Yeah.
having that I'm going to ignore it
Yeah.
approach. I think that's the best approach when necessary, but it's
Right.
also important to not ignore the body when your body is saying, "Hey, we need to either rest, or we need to take stock, or we need to sit down, or we need to stop pushing ourselves." It's important to have the
Yeah.
ability to read the context appropriately and then say, "Okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to rest now," even though I told my body to be quiet for a little bit. And
Yeah.
tag along for the ride.
Yeah. So for the first 3 years when I had to rest, um, my body told me, "This is enough," and I laid down and I rested. And I noticed that every now and then I had what I call them super sleeps, and the next time I woke up, it's like something else came online. It's like,
Wow.
"Wow, I can do this again." Um, and I wish I still had them because there are a few more things I'd like to come online, but, it was interesting because I thought I had gotten to be the whole me again, or not whole, but
Yeah.
the new me, and suddenly I had a super sleep, and it's like, "Wow, look at that. I can think again."
Yeah.
And I hadn't realized that I wasn't really thinking for a while, believe
Yeah.
it or not.
Yeah, I believe that. So what is a super sleep?
So I got really tired and I went to sleep, and it was probably an 18-hour sleep. And when I woke up, whatever was happening, it's like I had something else came back in my body.
You might have another super sleep. You never know. It might not be over.
That's true. But it's been 2 years since I've had one. So,
Yeah, you never know.
yeah.
What's interesting is that I speak to lots of people about stroke every day, every week, and I've interviewed a number of people who told me that something came back online for them 5 years later, 10 years later, 20 years later.
Really?
Yeah. So there's no such thing as it's never going to come back again. Nobody knows
Right.
that. It's
Right.
likely if you've got more time ahead of you, it's likely that more and more things will come back online because the brain just rewires, it reroutes,
Yeah.
it finds new ways to do things. And
Yeah.
when people tell me that they overcome aphasia 20 years later, when people tell me that they have arm movement for the first time in 10 years, all those things, let's, let's be a little bit woo woo about it. All those things are just, right time, right place, the universe aligned, all that kind of stuff for this thing to occur again. Maybe that person was in the right frame of mind
Yep.
or right frame of body. I'm not sure.
Yep.
So super sleep might be around the corner.
Maybe. I'll let you know.
Yeah. So how's your husband dealing with all of this drama that you created?
Well, actually, he was a real sweetheart. Um, he put aside his work. So he called his boss, and his boss gave him as much time off as he needed. So he was with me for 2 weeks, and then he had a schedule that he worked for 6 hours a day, and he had the rest of the day off. And I thought that was really fabulous. When I came home, he worked from home, so I had him until August 15th or something, which is really wonderful. When I had to go to the hospital for therapy, he took time off. So I had nothing to complain about. In fact, I finally got mad at him after almost 3 years.
Why?
Yeah. So 2 3/4 years, no fights. I was sometimes annoyed, but not so annoyed that I was really all that mad at him. So,
That's quite the record.
yeah, for us it is.
So you didn't have the capacity to be mad, or you were able to take the high road.
When I looked at things, it didn't seem that it was such a big deal that I just let it go.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then one day you couldn't deal with it anymore.
So it's weird because he wanted to go to one of our favorite restaurants and he didn't want to take a highway, so he asked me how to get there. So I was texting in my phone and it took me too long to text. So he just said, "Ah," and he went and took the highway. And it's like, that little thing made me mad.
Because they didn't have patience to wait for another text.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah.
Sometimes men don't have patience to wait for a text, that's just how it is.
Yeah. Well, and if that's the little thing makes me mad and that's the only thing, that's okay.
Yeah, that's pretty
Yeah.
cool. So, uh, were you working before your stroke? What were you up to? What type of a life were you leading?
So I had my own business, just one person. And we had, I'd started it 3 years before, and I had probably close to $100,000 scheduled for this year. And my stroke happened in March. So my business closed. And when I thought about reopening it, I just didn't have any energy anymore.
Yeah.
So I actually started thinking I could work for somebody. So in August 2015, which is a year and a quarter after my stroke, I started sending out resumes. And two companies said, "Yeah, we'll give you an interview." And I was so excited. It's like, woohoo. When the phone called or the phone rang and I picked it up for the first interview and they asked the first question, "What do you do?" I said nothing. I couldn't get a word out. Nothing.
Stage fright?
No, I had aphasia. And so the interview was over after one question and no answer. So that night, my husband came home and I told him about it. And he said, "Look, you've had a stroke. Give yourself a chance." I said, "Okay." So I thought, I will interview much better next time. So I practiced and I practiced. And so when the phone rang the next time and I picked it up, I started answering questions. I went, woohoo! Until halfway through the interview, I had aphasia again and nothing else came out. And that was it. At that point, I realized that I just didn't have the capacity to work again because I couldn't get through an interview.
Yeah.
So I needed to take some time off and work on myself, working on my language skills,
What kind of work were you doing beforehand?
marketing.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah.
So you really need to be able to communicate if you're doing marketing.
Yes, you do.
Yeah. It's one of those things. I mean, aphasia tends to be an interesting thing. I hear about people who actually, I request a lot of people to come on the podcast who won't come on because they have aphasia.
Hmm.
And of course I respect that, but I'm not sure why they don't come on, whether they're afraid or whether they think that they can't make a relevant podcast episode, or I'm not sure what the thinking is. But putting yourself in a situation like you did where uh, you talk to somebody and you're going to have potentially an episode or you're going to forget something, I think that's the best thing to do, is to put yourself in the deep end and to deal with the frustration, with the challenges, and forget about the embarrassment and all the bullshit that we worry about. Just forget about all of that stuff and just allow the conversation to occur, because that's how conversations occur. They occur by going in and starting, and then if something goes away, just wait for it to come back. If it doesn't come back, start talking about something else.
Yeah.
But I understand it, and at the same time, as somebody who didn't experience it uh, to that extent where I couldn't continue a conversation, I just thought, well, whatever, I'll talk. My wife would wait for me sometimes, and she would say, Okay, finish the sentence. And I'd be going, well, was there a sentence at the beginning? I didn't even know there was one. Sorry. What were we talking about? And she'd say, we were talking about this. And I would go, oh, no, that's gone. I have no idea what I was talking about. Next conversation. Um,
That's in, that's interesting because so I joined Toastmasters,
ah,
and I actually didn't do any speaking other than off the cuff speaking for 7 months, and finally they said you got to do something. So I had my speech prepared, and I had PowerPoint slides, and I remember the day. So they called me up. I stood in front of the audience and I made sure that the PowerPoint slides were working. I started my speech and I got the first sentence out and I went, woohoo! I got the half of the second sentence out and boom, nothing. I started that sentence 6 times. I finally got through it.
yeah,
I finished my speech. I sat down and I was so proud of myself because that was the first speech I'd given. And despite the fact that I had trouble getting through it, I still got through it.
yeah,
I was really proud of that.
yeah. I, I don't, I don't want to give people a hard time. I don't want to make them feel um, like I'm putting any pressure on or I'm
Yep,
judging them or anything like that. But the reality is that you in stroke recovery, you have to push yourself, and
yep,
you got to push yourself to overcome things. And some of the things we overcome are our own limitations. We've got to overcome those. We've got to
yep,
overcome physical limitations, and we've got to overcome actual brain, problem limitations. And there's only one way to overcome that and to grow new neurons and to grow new pathways is to just do it.
yep,
And no one's really going to judge you if you forget the words to a sentence. People who haven't had a stroke forget words that they're about to say or what they were
mm,
talking about or where their keys were. That's pretty normal stuff. Everyone does it. And we just do it a lot better than other people.
yeah,
You know, we're really
yep,
good at forgetting. We just need to, we need to be not so, uh, experts at forgetting. We need to be the experts at trying to remember.
yep.
Um, now, you're in marketing and you had, this $100,000 job that you were pitching for, or that you had just won. You had a stroke. What happened to that $100,000?
Went bye bye,
Yeah,
you know?
isn't it
I mean,
amazing?
yeah, it would, it's amazing that, so when my husband called people and told them, I'm sorry she's had a stroke, I was amazed at how pleasant people were.
Mm.
I mean, they were so compassionate towards me. Um, I didn't know how many people actually loved me. And I think that is probably one of the most important things I take from my time in the hospital is all these people who sent me flowers and cards love me. And sometimes when I'm upset right now, I step back and I say, okay, just remember how much people cared about you and they still care. So get over it.
Yeah. And that money that didn't come your way, how much, and I'm not, I don't need financial details or anything like that, but how much of an impact did that then have later on? Because if you can't work, you can't earn any money and you
Yeah.
can't support yourself or do your bit for the family. How does that impact the way that you then go about, family life or what was normal beforehand?
Um, so it took a toll on our finances. I mean, I didn't work for 5 years and I started working. I wrote a book. Okay, that was my work.
Yeah.
And there's more to getting it published than just the printing of it. Um, you have to have an audience. So it's going to take me time to actually make money from the point where I published my book. So,
Yeah. So you
you
took
know,
your uh, project into a long-term project so that you've got something that you're working on that's going to be ready down the track, because
yep,
it's really, we can't really plan after a stroke. You can't really
yep,
plan much. You have to
no,
look forward to long-term projects, and this is what the podcast is exactly about. It's my way of doing something that's not um, that I love, that I can use to express myself, etc. And if it does make me money where I'm making a living from it, it will happen down the road. It's definitely not
yep,
happening now. It's costing me money
yep,
to run this.
yep,
And I didn't work properly for the best part of about, I would say, 6 years.
yeah,
And that has a massive impact on every part of your life and your family.
yep,
And it's interesting. I had just one. We had a property maintenance business then that I'm still involved with partly, and I had just won $170,000 contract, and that job was due to start 2 weeks before I had the stroke. And I had to ring my clients and tell them the same thing and say to them, "Sorry, I can't get there. I'm in hospital. I don't know what the future holds. You'll need to find somebody else."
yeah.
And that
That's
was
heartbreaking.
that was heartbreaking, because you work towards that for
Yep,
such a long time, and 170,000 is uh, a fair amount of revenue.
hmm,
And I had never ever had a contract of that size. I had put so much work into having that type of opportunity, and then it was all just taken away. And of course, I didn't dwell on it at the time. It wasn't something that really bothered me. What bothered me was that I might not be around in a few
yep,
months.
yep,
But then reflecting on it a few years later, I thought, geez, that was shit. Why did I need to lose that contract as well? You know, couldn't the timing be I did the job, we got paid, and then I had a stroke? I played those types of stories in my head, but of course, you can't achieve anything by doing the what ifs. The what ifs don't
right,
really mean anything. And
yep,
then it was 5 years of working intermittently and then just getting any money I can from wherever I can, when I can do it. And that was the hardest part. That's what people who come around and love you and support you don't realize, is that your capacity to earn can be impacted for many, many, many years. And for some
yep,
people, forever.
right.
It's such a challenging thing. So now that you're, I think, is it 6 years down the track, Marcia?
Yeah, it's almost 6 years.
Have you moved back into any form of work other than writing the book? And we'll talk about the book in a sec.
Well, I want to speak because I think a lot of people don't really understand what's it, what it's like to have a stroke. Um, if I can prevent strokes from happening, even better. So I'm starting to do podcasts. I'm starting to do interviews so that I can get the message out. And I'm hoping that over the next year or so, I will start making enough money where I can feel like I'm making a difference
Yeah.
in people's lives and in my own home life.
Yeah, that's important. Absolutely. So, speaking of books and
Yeah.
things that you want to do, show me the book.
Oh,
It is called Stroke Forward One Step at a Time. Congratulations on getting it out.
thank you.
How long did it take you to get out all up?
So it took me 4.5 years to get it published. Um, and I feel like that's a real accomplishment because I started in January of last year and I thought, if I'm not getting it published this year, I may as well just put it aside. And I went, okay, that means I have to get it published
Get your act together.
because I'm not putting, well, okay, so with my aphasia, I didn't only didn't talk right, I didn't learn, I didn't. understand how to write. So I'd start writing a word and maybe I'd start it with the right structure. And then I go, oh, but that's not how it's really written. Or maybe I wouldn't even know how to start it. So after 9 months of my stroke, I could type 2 paragraphs and it took me all day. I mean, literally all day.
Yeah.
So,
Quite the lesson in perseverance.
well, yeah, but I mean, what else did I have to do?
Yeah.
I could watch TV, or I could learn to type again.
I remember sitting and typing my first email after the second time I was in hospital for a bleed in the brain. And it literally, to do 2 or 3 lines, it literally took 8 hours. Like, it just took forever. And
Yeah.
I started and I thought I knew what I was going to say, got to the end of it, went back, read the question or read the email response from the other person, thought, I don't have no idea what I've just written here. I don't even know how I've responded. It took forever. And I felt, and I went to the office and I did the work in the same, in my mind, the same way that I had done it before, but it was nothing like that. It was
No.
not productive. It was not efficient. It was nothing. But you've written a book, and I only wrote a line or two. How many words is the book? How many pages is it?
It's about 160 pages.
Okay,
So
that's a
it's
fair enough.
not, well, it's not that much,
Yeah,
but I think it tells what I want to say.
yeah. So what do you want to say?
So it's about 3 things actually. It's to the stroke patient, and what I want to tell them is never give up, because as soon as you give up, you start regressing. So I don't care how many times this sounds really bad, but if you've fallen down, get up. If you fall down again, get up. And yes, I've fallen down a few times.
Yeah,
And it's for the caregiver. It's so that they understand what it's like to have a stroke. And I have my husband in speaking in it. I've got my sister speaks in it. I've got 3 doctors who speak in it. So it's really how they view their position in the stroke. And thirdly, it's for caregivers who want to um, learn how to be healthcare givers. Um, so when my husband went to the hospital for the first time, he knew absolutely nothing about how to be an advocate.
mm.
And unfortunately, I think that's the way it is for many of them.
Hmm.
So that's where I wanted to give at least a small snippet of this is where you should start. Because if they have a place where they can go and they can go, okay, I need to be cognizant of most people don't swallow well after a stroke and they can choke. Most people, or at least I, couldn't go to the bathroom by myself. Well, what does that mean? So, most people I know have conversations with the doctor. He leaves, and they have no clue what the conversation was about.
That's me. Yeah,
Yeah, so this is at least where you can start is by having something where you don't have to go through it bit by bit by bit. And over 2 or 3 years, you can go, oh, now I can be an advocate. This gives you a snapshot in, oh, this is a place where I can be an advocate now and I can grow from here.
yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does. It's a great idea. It's the whole purpose for the podcast. It's to create a catalog of different versions of what's happened, so that people
Yeah.
who experience stroke, which for everybody it's different, can go and find an interview that they relate to and listen to that, and then get
Yeah.
more more of an understanding of perhaps how their journey will evolve, how
Yep.
how the process will go. You've got some really good key headings on your website. The book, firstly, is called Stroke Forward, one step at a time. And it's really important. One step at a time is the best way to describe it to people. And I know it sounds cliche and all that kind of stuff, but it's so true. It is
Yep.
literally one minute step at a time, because they all add up at the end of the year. Those one minute steps become a massive, big, if you look back and reflect and you look at where you came from, they become a really big journey.
Yep.
And that's really important. And then the other one of your headings says small movements every day, and then you've got success. And it's so true. That's what it is. And it doesn't matter what you think success looks like, it looks different in stroke.
Yep.
In stroke recovery, success looks different. I know some people think they've succeeded when they can tie a bow tie in their daughter's hair. I mean, how about that for being successful, you know?
Yep.
Or their shoelaces, or they can put their tie on. The males can put a tie on. Or for females, it's when they find a bra that works that doesn't need two hands. You know,
Yep. Yep.
because that is something that men don't think about. Certainly, the doctors aren't thinking about it, and
Yep.
it's not a conversation that people often have. They don't have that conversation enough. So when you find ways to achieve success, what's amazing about this stroke community is that everyone wants to share their version of this is what you can do because I did it and it helped me. And I thought, oh, well, I'm the only one who's sharing amazing things about stroke, but every person I've met has had a stroke, they tried to recover, or they're still recovering. There's certain part down the way, but at some point they all go and decide, I'm going to speak about this, or I'm going to tell other people how to prevent stroke, or I'm going to tell people how to help their carers and all these other things. And I think it's just fascinating
Yep.
that so many stroke survivors get to that point. And
Yep.
what a beautiful way to bring all of that information into a book,
Yep.
something that somebody can buy and have on the shelf and refer back to it whenever they want, and then hand it to the next person if, unfortunately, they come across somebody who has a stroke. Um, your your story is really important to put in writing as well. I think it for me, or to put for me verbally, because I don't do writing very well. I don't enjoy that. How was it writing the book for you? How did it make you feel telling your story in this way?
Um, well, at first, I didn't feel very good. And that's because I couldn't write like there was any emotion in there. So the first version of the book was just this happened, this happened, this happened. And it was very boring to read. So I put it aside for a while because I I wanted people to actually read it. And if I found it boring, everybody would find it boring.
Right.
So I picked it up about 6 months later and I started writing it again, and it was better. In fact, it was pretty good, but I still couldn't write about my own family. And that told me that something was still off. So I put it again down for about 6 months and I picked it up again. And after about it had been about a year and a half, I could finally actually write about everything. And some things were not so good to write about, um, like the choking in the hospital, but I wrote about them anyway because they happened to me. And I had to be honest about the little things because if I'm not going to be honest about the things that happened to me, then why write a book at all?
Yeah.
I mean,
Without giving away too much, what was the choking incident?
so I had a weakness on my right hand side, so I had to turn to the left whenever I drink something. And I was in the hospital, and I was on fluids only, and the kitchen got it wrong and sent up real food for me. And so I was really excited because it's something I could eat, and I choked on it because I wasn't supposed to have real food, I was supposed to have liquids.
Wow.
And unfortunately, or fortunately, I got it out. I don't remember how they got it out, but, that was the only time I feel like I scared my husband because I could have died.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So after that, every time I choked or started looking like I was gonna choke, he'd always ask me, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" For a couple of years.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Amazing and scary, and really important for people to hear that, sometimes these things are the things that put stroke survivors at risk. It
Yeah,
wasn't the stroke, it is the inability to be able to swallow
right.
or chew food, etc.
Yeah.
How does that swallowing come back? How do you relearn how to swallow?
For well, I don't know of anyone who hasn't learned to swallow, but for me, it was just practicing. I probably had my swallowing capability back, um, within 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So have you heard of anyone who hasn't been able to get it back?
No, no, I haven't heard that.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people who have had the same challenge with the losing the ability to swallow. Usually, I hear it because they've had a whatever that thing is down a tube in the throat, because they
Oh,
were unwell for quite some time, and then that impacts on the swallowing. But everyone I've spoken to about it or have ever heard of has always got it back. Um,
yeah.
I never had that. I didn't lose the ability to swallow. And was it scary for you? You know, how would you describe that state of being?
Um, I think my husband was more scared than I was,
Uh,
and that's because I think they didn't tell me that I would choke if
uh,
I didn't follow their rules. Now maybe they told me and I forgot, but I think the way my husband was, they forgot he didn't tell me. Yeah. So I didn't even know it.
yeah,
Yeah.
you had to learn the hard way.
Had to learn the hard way, exactly.
Wow, it's just fascinating. I mean, stroke survivors go through so much, and I say it all the time. I think it's amazing that people go through that experience, come out the other side, and then all they want to do is share and help. So
Yeah.
it's great that you do this. If somebody wanted to get a copy of the book, Stroke Forward, One Step at a Time, show us the copy again.
Oh,
For those people who are watching on YouTube, just lift it up a bit higher so we can see it properly. I'll put all the links um, to the book on the show in the show notes. But if somebody wanted to get a copy, where would they go? How would they get a copy?
they would go to Amazon.com and look for Stroke Forward.
And you can get that in a hard copy, and you can also get it in a soft copy.
Yes, it's an ebook and inside soft copy like this. So it's not a hardbound.
Yeah. Okay. Amazing. So tell me about what the future holds.
Well, I think this year I want to be on 100 podcasts.
Wow.
And you're number one.
Well, I'm
Yay!
honored. Thank you.
And I want to speak 30 times.
Perfect.
And I think that will set the stage for my being recognized as someone who speaks, and hopefully I will get paid. eventually.
Yeah.
Um, so I think next year I want to speak at a conference and be paid.
Why not? That is a great
Yeah.
thing to aim for. You're the marketing expert. So why don't you put some of those marketing skills into play to market yourself? How about that for advice from me?
Excellent.
Well, Marcia, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I really appreciate you connecting. I really am honored that I'm the first person that started the podcast roller coaster for you.
Thank you, Bill.
I really wish you all the best success and in both your recovery and launching of your new career and your book. To have you here sharing those stories, it's going to make a massive difference.
Thank you so much, Bill.
Discover how to support your recovery after stroke. Go to recoveryafterstroke.com.